reading of the book A Man and a Vision, the biography of Apostle Jeffrey Numbere of blessed memory, who pioneered indigenous Pentecostalism and evangelism in Rivers State and Bayelsa State. And so we are on this book, A Man and a Vision, chapter 14. We have going to talk about the sea campaigns. I'll give an outline of the sea campaigns in Rivers State. Much of Rivers and Bayelsa State is water, for this is the delta of the river Niger. In taking the gospel to the islands of these two states, Numbere was undertaking a very dangerous and difficult venture. He was going to be in perils of the sea and in perils of the heathen. The poor transportation system would expose him and his team to dangers from sea storm and waves, and to the danger of a small boat being capsized by waves from bigger boats. He was also going to be in perils of the heathen, in that he will be left at the mercy of the island dwellers, who, if angered by the gospel, could viciously attack him and the team, and there would be no means of escape for them. To add to all this, he had to contend with the powers of darkness that ruled both land and sea. When Numbere took his team out for what he termed the sea campaigns, it was not a run and hit and run affair either. He had never been to or even heard about many of those places before. Just like he did when crusading villages in the upland region, he had to use the map of the old River State to map out their sea journeys. He took the islands seaboard by seaboard, and divided them into axes or areas. They would then travel to an area and campaign the islands in that area for a period of 3 months, and then move on to another axis. Their campaigns were therefore quarterly campaigns. So they had first quarterly sea campaigns, second quarterly sea campaigns, and so on and so forth. The sea campaigns were at times interspersed with campaigns into the hinterland, so that it was sometimes a land campaign alternating with a sea campaign. But each campaign always lasts for 3 months at a stretch. During this period, they would plant one church each week. So in this way, they planted 12 churches each quarter of 3 months. As with the other campaigns, only a few will be highlighted each quarter, but their experiences were very much the same everywhere they went. After the first quarterly sea campaign, it was to commence on 12th October and last through 20th December 1975. Their first port of call was the sea town of Bonny and its surrounding villages: Green Sewama, William Jumbo, Long John, Peterside, and others. From Bonny, they sailed westward across seas to the Kalabari Islands of Bakana, then Tombia, Bukuma, Buguma, Agulama, ending up in Abalama. The remaining Kalabari axis was covered in the third quarter. In the second quarterly sea campaign, they sailed to the southeastern coast of Rivers State. In this campaign, which lasted from 2nd to 22nd March 1976, they took the gospel to Ataba, Ngo, Asarama, Unyagala, Old and New Agana, Eletombi, and many other islands of the Andoni Kingdom. The third quarter was back to the west: Abonima, Degema, Tema, Bile, Ke, and the Python worshiping island of Kola from 28 October through 16 December 1976. The whole of 1977 was spent on land campaigns until early 1978, when they set out again to the sea. In the fourth quarter, first he took the campaigns eastward across the sea to the islands far out in the Atlantic Ocean, in what is now Bayelsa State for the first phase of the evangelization of that area. Though the Kula campaigns belong to the third quarter and that of Opobo to the fourth quarter, for the purposes of this book, the two of them will be treated in the same chapter. The next quarter was spent in revisiting and reviving already crusaded areas such as Boni, Opobo, Bori, Buguma, and then ending the year with another round of Africa campaigns. Go on to the Buguma Crusade, where Jesus captured Satan's cheerleader and priestess. Buguma, the island hometown of Apostle Numbere, is the traditional and spiritual headquarters of the Kalabara kingdom. Here was the satanic stronghold of the sea goddess Akaso. According to their belief, she was so powerful a warrior that in the days of old, she used to lead them to war and win many battles for them. She was held in high repute and awe by all, as they ascribed much power to her. In Buguma today, there is a sculpture of her in front of her shrine, which occupies a very prominent place in Buguma. The team arrived in Buguma from Bukuma, a neighboring island, on 23rd November 1975. The Buguma campaign was slated to last from that 23rd November through to 7th December. Buguma proved to be a tough battle as the powers of darkness came out in full force against the gospel team, but this time in a deuce. After repairs and ensuring that it was functioning, they came back to Buguma. Their generator also stopped suddenly, and so there was no crusade. They got back to camp and went into serious prayers and discussions. During the prayers, the Lord spoke to them, assuring them of His presence and of their success. After the prayers, Numbere divided the camp into 3 groups. One was to go to Calabar, another for prayer warfare. It will be a day of fasting. There will be no either cooking nor eating in the camp. This was war going on, and there had to be a winner. The Calabar team left with him when they went for crusades in Calabar. The Port Harcourt team was in 2 sub-teams. One was to go to Elder Drusilla Kwabare and the other to Elder Sambata in Port Harcourt for amplifiers. Elder Drusilla Kwabare was one of the earliest adult converts of Great Evangelism outreaches. A successful businesswoman, she gave much of her substance towards Apostle Numbere's outreaches with the gospel. Elder Sambata, though of the Assemblies of God Church, was one of the few Christians then who encouraged Apostle Numbere in the work and was of much help to the ministry, especially financially. With the Buguma campaign in danger of being aborted, he sent an SOS to the 2 of them. He said, "Go say it, because we have no generators and amplifiers. Tell them that I need them to provide amplifiers for me to prosecute this war." They were all to be back to Buguma by 5 p.m. that same day for the crusade to go on as scheduled. What a great faith. There was no room for any remonstrance or argument. It was like an army boot camp, and orders was orders. Not only were there men and women of faith, they were also obedient to their leader. His every word was law to them. Therefore, very early in the next morning, the emissaries left for Calabar and Port Harcourt as instructed, while the rest of the camp went on their knees in prayers and fasting. It's Edward Pepper went to Elder Kwabare, while the rest of them went to see whether they could get at other brethren to inform them of the electronic shop, bought a new amplifier, and paid her return fare to Buguma. She took the new amplifier and arrived in Buguma that same day. At Elder Kwabare's place, a small drama took place between her and Edward. When she saw him come into the house so early in the morning, when he was supposed to be out in the field in Buguma, she was alarmed. "Is anything wrong?" she asked with great concern. "We're all fine. only that we have not been able to hold any crusade for the past 2 nights. This alarmed her the more. She jumped, what happened? Did they beat you people up? Those were the days of terrible persecution and great hostility to the gospel, so that you can understand why she was so much alarmed. Coming her that he told her, we are all fine, only that we do not have an amplifier. We need one for the crusades to go on. On hearing this, she asked him to sit down. Then she got up and went into her bedroom. He thought that she was going to bring the money for the amplifier. Instead of coming out with money, she came out with her headscarf, sat down and said, all right, let us pray. Was Edward disappointed? He was certainly in no mood for prayer. Right then, oh my God, he muttered under his breath. All he wanted was money for him to purchase an amplifier and run back quickly to Buguma before the 5 p.m. deadline. In his mind, he felt she was wasting time. Anyway, he closed his eyes. Evangelist Ngwano, that is all right. You pray. Pray. Wondering what prayer he was to offer that could produce an amplifier without money, he prayed as briefly as he could, asking God to give Mama Kwabara the strength and grace to provide the amplifier. After the short prayer, as if to heighten the already high tension in Edward, she stood up and started crying, oh God, please help your servant, Numbere. We have been praying for him to go out and do the crusade. We want this crusade to go on in Jesus' name. At the end of the prayer, she went back to her room. He was now thinking that she was going to come out with the money. Again, she came out without money, but this time with her handbag. Let us go, she told him. He looked at her. Where are we going to? He asked. Let us go. Let us enter the car, she urged him. He followed her into her car, and she was mounting higher and higher as they drove on. Where in the world is she taking him to? He kept on wondering. Every minute mattered to him, as he had to be in Buguma by 5 p.m. and with an amplifier. She was proffering no explanation to him as to show how she would provide an amplifier. But out of respect for her, he did not ask her any questions. After what seemed an eternity to Edward, finally they drove into the parking lot of a building. He looked, and it was a bank. Oh, what a welcome sight that was to him. It was then that joy came into his heart. She was actually going to withdraw the money from the bank. He was going to have the amplifier after all. He was full of excitement. She went into the bank and withdrew all the money she had in her account. She gave to him 500 naira for the amplifier and 100 naira for his transport. That was how sacrificial those early supporters of Numbere's ministry would be. They did not have much, but all they had, they could freely give. Those days, when the naira was very strong, 500 naira was quite a lot of money, and so he could purchase an amplifier. When Edward received the money, he was so excited that he did not bother about entering her car anymore. He shouted and waved at her, Mama, bye-bye, you can go, and ran off to the base to meet his comrades, as they used to call themselves. Then they went and purchased the amplifier and took off to Buguma. Shortly after they arrived in Buguma, Beatrice arrived with a new amplifier from Elder Sam Mbata. About the same time, those from Calabar also arrived with the generator. It was the mission accomplished. They now had 2 amplifiers and 1 generator ready for battle. From that night, they bombarded Buguma daily with crusades, morning calls and teachings, challenging and exposing the powers of darkness. The law moved mightily in their midst. Many were saved. Madam Ineba Ojuka, the priestess of Akaso. She was an old woman, and all her life she had been completely sold out to Akaso worship. She was the leader of the Ebele, the Akaso women wing, and they had a totem called Awome Akaso. She was also suffering from a number of ailments such as arthritis of her waist, stressful that it had caused her sleepless nights. She had gone to juju priests, native doctors, prayer houses, and Orthodox doctors. She was healed immediately as she surrendered her life to Jesus Christ. That night, for the first time in over the next day, she stood before the crowd and publicly denounced Akaso and all other gods. Her conversion caused great commotion in town, for she was well known for her devotion to Akaso, the sea goddess.